left-wing Kingz. Listen, think, act, repeat.
I will tell you what, there's something that made me tear up, and it's a movie called The Long Game. Now, if those of you who don't know about this movie, in the 1950s, a group of Mexican-American teenagers wanted to swing their way into the prestigious Del Rio Country Club of Texas to play golf. Now, if you think Texas has discrimination now, then just think about 54 years ago, back in the 50s. Now, these young men had to deal with prejudice. They had to break down barriers, and they had to show people that, anyone with talent can excel if they put their mind to it, they practice, no matter what facilities they had, what equipment they had, or where they were doing it. Luckily, we happen to have a descendant of one of those individuals in the room. That is our esteemed guest, Leo Vasquez. And he can tell us more about the story and the adaptation to its Hollywood film.
Yeah, you betcha. So let me start by giving credit to the book's author here in San Antonio, attorney Humberto Garcia, wrote the book. The book is called The Mustang Miracle. The movie was then titled The Long Game. Dennis Quaid is the director and is in the movie. Mm-hmm. But it takes us back to 1957, right? The story of these young men that couldn't partake in, being part of a country club in Del Rio at the time because Mexicans were not allowed, period, right? That was it. They could caddy, though. And so they became caddies for some of the Caucasian people who were members there. And what is part of the book, but the stories that my dad told us in reality, and I'll give you a bit of both, was that when they would caddy and people would miss shots, they'd break their clubs, get out, man, throw them in the creek, and their balls would go in the creeks and stuff. And in the evenings, they would go dive into those creeks with flashlights, looking for all that broken equipment, those lost balls. They'd get them, they'd tape them up. So that was their equipment. They took machetes in West Texas and chopped down mesquite to, they called it El Gallito, I believe it was called. A little rooster to create their own fairway, and then they dusted off a little area with a can in the ground and swept around it. That was their green, and they taught themselves how to golf. And the story went that they got pretty good. A coach saw them, picked them up, battled with the country club there to try to let them play, and got them to the state tournament in 1957. At first, they weren't admitted. Then they were. They ended up winning the state of Texas championship in 1957, awesome. And it was just a beautiful story of determination, perseverance, knowing what you want. It goes back to what we're talking about, getting healthy. Mm-hmm. The fundamental facts of human nature don't change. Perseverance, commitment, knowing what you want, having goals. Those were the things that these young men wanted in 1957. It's the things now that we need now to help us achieve what we want to achieve today.
Exactly.
Yeah, man, that sounds like I'm anxious to see it. And of course, on the show, we talk about struggle all the time, especially when it comes to like racism. So, I mean, that's just going to be a beautiful story. Love Dennis Quaid as an actor, and, just interested to hear that. What are some of the insights maybe that your dad gave you, that we may not catch in the movie or something like that? What do you think you can share with us?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think all the insight he gave us came from the right place with good intentions, right? Because was it probably the best advice? I don't know. But I remember one time he said, son, you can't be Mexican, right? Because they experienced the discrimination of being Mexican. Mm-hmm. So he didn't want that for us. So he would tell us based off of what he knew at the age of, young age. And he would just say, you can't be Mexican, right? In retrospect, now, if I was going to give advice to my son, I may say, hey, sometimes being a minority has had social impacts because you want to approach it. It's different. Right. But to him, to us, it was just you can't be Mexican because you won't get ahead. Right? Mm-hmm. I remember one time there was someone gave me a poster that said, back in the day, we had bumper stickers. Mm-hmm. Kids don't know what that is now because we had metal bumpers on our cars. Yeah. You put the bumper stickers on there. He gave us a bumper sticker that had a fist that said Chicano Power. Mm-hmm. And they had a fist. And I remember that was the only one time that my dad kind of gave me a little bit of a slap, right? He said, you can't do that. You can't do that. You will not get ahead.
Wow.
Right? At the time, I didn't really understand, but it hurt him so much to see that because he thought my son's life is going to be hell, is going to be limited, is going to be lacking in opportunity if that's what he's thinking and living because I've been there.
Yeah, man. That man, like you said, he had his intent was good because he wanted his child to have a chance, an opportunity. In the world that your dad came up with, if you were Hispanic, you got no opportunity. You could tell from the story they had to fight just to play golf, like to be able to be included, to be in a tournament, all of those things. And I've had members of my family, and my wife will tell you, my great grandmother used to make similar comments, like don't talk back to the white man, or you listen to the white person, or if you were a light skinned black person, she thought highly of you. If you were a dark skinned black person, like Adrian, she didn't think dark.
Uh-oh.
She didn't think happy of you. So basically, unfortunately, if the further back you go, those were the types of things that were said by minorities to try to keep you from being hurt or keep you in a position to move forward and be successful. Now, today, to your point, I think we know a lot better than that. Like, I'm all for Chicano power, and I know you are too. You know what I mean? I'm all for black power. And I know that we can articulate in a different way because we know that I think you made this point during the meeting, we're not going to let anything stop us from meeting our full potential. Like, I don't give a damn what, as a black man, dark skin, light skin, whatever. Adrian is successful at promotions. He knows what he's doing. He's been doing it forever. He has a lineup of people behind him. So basically, even though there are things that are holding us back, we're aware. I think we have awareness of those things now, and we know how to navigate through those minefields. Whereas back then, if a white person said you was wrong or you did something wrong, you just gonna get in trouble. It's your word against theirs back in the day. And we know how many people have been lynched, Emmett Till, or whatever, because of what a white person said versus a black person. But it's not like that anymore, right? To a certain extent.
To a certain extent. I mean, and I think what your father was kind of talking about is assimilation. We all have to kind of do that. You know what I'm saying? That's just real. But it's all about, it's still part of the American fabric and American culture. Hey, it was a time and period, that racism was adamant. You know what I'm saying? I think sometimes people forget that it's not only a black struggle. It was a struggle for a lot of minorities. And that goes both ways. Some black people that think it's only their struggle. Well, no, Mexican Americans went through the same thing, especially in Texas. We know that. You talk about lynching, and I don't think it's advertised enough, but they don't know that Texas Rangers did a lot of lynching in the Valley, for years, centuries. So I mean, it's real. You know what I'm saying? And to hear the struggle, and I'm a fan of history, and I think that we should know that so we won't repeat it. I think that's what history is, and I think a lot of times some of these stories get shelved or pushed to the side. So that's why I'm eager that the long game is coming out, because that comes to light now. We can see what's going on, and we can move past it or whatever the case may be. We can make it part of the American struggle or American history that we all know.
How many of us in this room even knew about the long game until
I looked it up, and it was so interesting. I was like, oh my gosh, where's this at? Just like when you're talking about overcoming discrimination and that, promote awareness and education. And that movie is education. It's part of, it's historical. So I'm definitely glad, and I am going to watch it too, multiple times and talk about it. And helping foster an inclusive environment. What are we doing? So you want to actively challenge stereotypes, support diversity and inclusion, speak out against discriminatory practices that happen, having conversations. And I think that's what people are scared of sometimes, is the conversation piece. You can't be afraid of it. It's okay to have a conversation, to ask questions and talk about those stereotypes that we all know aren't true, but we know you see in movies and things like that. Everything you see in a movie ain't true on there. So I'm really interested and intrigued about seeing that story and the impact it has on all of us.
Good. And Malik, we're not here to say that it doesn't exist, because we all know discrimination still exists, right? Definitely not at the levels maybe that it used to, but it still does exist, right? But we don't want to let that hold us back.
Nope.
We don't want to get so into its existence that it just frustrates us and gets us to boil inside, and it holds us back. Because then it's doing what it was intended to do, not letting us grow and move forward, right? So let's embrace the fact that it still exists and begin to break and shatter the limitations that people think it really imposes on us. Because I'm a good example. You're a good example. Look at your beautiful wife. She's an African-American woman now educating and leading children of all races
Exactly.
to be great.
Right. That's what we want.
Right? So, because sometimes I just feel that we get too into it, that we don't allow ourselves to work towards our true potential.
Yeah.
Our God-given potential. So let's not, we're not saying it doesn't exist. It does.
Right.
But I think we can have more of an impact when we don't let it hold us back, and we can move forward and then do things like what we're doing today.
Yep, exactly. And I think it comes down to what you said about your dad and the rest of those individuals. It's about your goal, right? If your goal is to play golf and play on that country club, play for the school, win a trophy, then you know what? Have that mindset where you can get there, but you can still do other things, right, at the same time. And I think it's the same thing with discrimination. If I have a mindset where I'm not going to accept discrimination, and maybe it doesn't make me, it sure as hell don't make me happy, right? And I'm going to fight discrimination. I'm not going to let it get in the way of me doing the other things that I need to do, right? But I can still have a goal to eliminate it, decrease it, do whatever I can while I'm showing people and breaking those stigmas and those stereotypes at the same time. Right. So, I mean, but unfortunately, to your point, even today, there might be someone who might say, well, hey, you're pretty articulate for a black person. Right.
I try.
We know you are. And I know it has nothing to do with the fact that you black, white, but there's people out there who still think that way. Right. And that still exists. Even though I can be, my point is, I can get to being the president. Barack Obama was the president, and there's still people who put pictures of him as a monkey
to this day
and want to lynch and all kind of stuff. So Barack Obama is one of those people who did not let any limitations get in the way of him becoming who he wanted to be, the president of the United States, the most powerful country in the world. But you still got to deal with discrimination. It's not going anywhere, to your point. So
yeah, and I don't think you wear it as an anchor or anything. But I think in this political atmosphere we have right now, when you have like Ron DeSantis, who's running for president, who talks about, well, Florida, this is where woke comes and dies. Well, woke, which is just basically having knowledge of things that happened in the past and acknowledging those. That's pretty much what when you're saying woke. Like, I'd love to have it to where discrimination was an issue. We wouldn't have to talk about it. But when you say things like that, you keep it where, where it is, where it's going to be mainstream. So, you got this guy, he's running for president, and he's basically saying, well, what I'm doing in Florida, I'm going to do everywhere, Yeah. Well, in a Florida story like Leo's, they're going to try to brush that to the side, and you ain't going to learn about it. You know what I'm saying? Because that's where woke goes to die. That's an important story. Not because we want to push and say, hey, woe is me, we're discriminated against. It's not that. It's just to educate people once again on how things were, so we won't go back there and we can move forward as a nation. You know what I'm saying? Plain and simple. So, you just got to, you got to remain positive and do the things that you need to do. But those are lessons that still need to be taught, unfortunately.
And speaking of discrimination, where it comes back to the movie The Long Game, can you talk a little bit about what your dad and them went through as far as I know that they won the trophy, but what happened with that situation?
The story and it's whenever they make a movie, it's always a bit different than the book. And it's always a bit different than the true story. Right? But there are a lot of similarities as well. But he told us we didn't get our trophies when we won the championship. Right? They didn't give them to us. It was one of those things. Okay, see ya.
Wow.
How do we make it right? I think it was 5-6 years ago, and then I couldn't make it. And I was so disappointed in myself. I said I should have gone with my two brothers and my dad. I think it was halftime of a Cowboy game in Texas Stadium. They gave him his 1957 championship medal. He's been inducted into all the Hall of Fames around Texas, Hispanic Hall of Fame, and all these other Hall of Fames and stuff. But it's been good because we're demonstrating effort to make it right. Right? Now, hopefully, there's sincerity behind that.
Oh, yeah.
And not just trying to make it a feel-good thing, right? So some sincerity there.
Yeah.
But,
You know what I just thought about, man, is how your dad had that, and this is just me being Malik, so excuse me. How your dad had that comment, man, where he was like, you can't be Hispanic, you can't be Mexican. But if he wasn't, he wouldn't have gotten to all of these Hall of Fames and all these induction ceremonies. So has he changed his mindset on that?
Well, I'll tell you this. Growing up, say in the last 15 years, right? And my parents were divorced when I was very young. But every time I would with my dad, the first question he'd ask me, "Are you in school? Are you in school? Are you in school?" When I graduated from Incarnate Word with my master's and my undergrad and my master's, he came to both graduations. He was so proud, right? Yeah. When my son graduated from A&M, he was there, so proud. When Tori graduated this summer, he wanted to be there. Unfortunately, he passed away in April. But he did get to see the world premiere of the movie at the South by Southwest in Austin back in last March. So we're very happy for that. But yeah, it was different. It was different, Malik. It's being happy now that to see us achieving what we're achieving. Very proud about what Monica and I have been able to achieve and provide for our kids and provide for the community. So I think he went to his resting place knowing that he did a good job with what he had.
Yes, he did. Yeah. I know that for a fact. I'm proud of you, and I ain't your daddy.
It's crazy that they didn't get their trophies. Like, what was the purpose of that? Like, y'all won, but
you don't think that's how?
I'm just saying.
That's racism,
I know it is. I'm saying, but think about the mentality behind, man. Oh man, y'all won, man. We seen y'all beat us, but no, y'all leave these trophies right here. We ain't gonna tell nobody.
I couldn't have lived during that time. I think I would be dead. I told you, I don't follow very well. I don't listen well. Ask Malik.
Nah, you don't.
She would have been on the podium. Where my trophy at?
Excuse me, I'm not leaving.
You'd have been all right. You probably would have went to jail, but you'd have been all right.
And I hope when people go see the movie, they're not going to know nothing about it. So a lot of times when we go to the movies, we go with an expectation of, the good Oscars and the awards and all this stuff. I told myself, this is not about that. Hopefully people pick up on the message. Right? Persevere, commitment, don't give up. You can do it. And not look for some, it's not Denzel Washington or Cindy Crawford. I'm not expecting any awards out of this movie, but it's a story that tells how we can accomplish and move forward. It's a beautiful story of perseverance.
Real good feel good story. It sounds like. Yeah.
Hey man, and just to let y'all know, man, it's not no like little B movie presentation by Dennis Quaid. This is big time.
This ain't no Tubi.
This ain't no Tubi. This is Dennis Quaid, Cheech Marin, Jay Hernandez. Okay. Like there's some heavy hitters in this movie, man. So if y'all get a chance, go check it out.
Yeah. It's gonna be great.
Yeah. Don't be on there looking at bringing up Tubi and Freebie trying to find this movie. You know what I'm saying? You gotta
pay and go to the damn movie theater.
And go to the movies, man.
Like we used to do when we didn't try to get all these free movies.
I'm trying to be downloading it with some old crazy app. People always come up with a crazy app. Like, actually go to the damn movies, spend $10 and watch it, man.